Is in Mondello Park. We are still at the Phoenix Park, and our next race is a Sesco Historic Racing, and it's John Kenny and Richard Young in the commentary box.
This is the second Cisco National Historic race of the weekend, and the grid is as they finished on Saturday's race. And on pole it's Edmund Cassidy in the Sunbeam Tiger, that big monster machine, 4.2 litres. Bertie Carruthers alongside him. He gave him a great battle yesterday. Lloyd Hutchinson in the Mini is on the second row alongside Gareth Maxwell. Then Jim O'Reilly in the Porsche, and Johnny Flynn, who says he races for fun, is on the third row of the grid in the MG Midget. Mervyn Johnson, Ray Cunningham, Alan Kessie and Billy Crosby make up the top 10. This is an 8-lap race, and there is the front row of the grid, and that was the driver who finished second yesterday, Bertie Carruthers in the Porsche 911, 2.7 litres. Had problems down the main straight trying to catch up with Edmund Cassidy, who's grunting that 4.2 litre car. Well, it just took him further and further ahead, but as they got into the corners, Bertie Carruthers was able to tighten up and get closer to the eventual race winner, Edmund Cassidy. That is our pole sitter there in the Sunbeam Tiger, and any moment now the marshals put their hands in the air. The 5-second board will be shown. There is the 5-second board shown to the grid of the National Historics here at the Phoenix Park, and any second now creeping forward goes Edmund Cassidy. May get the penalty for a jump start there as they go down to the Dublin Crystal Corner for the very first time, and Edmund Cassidy, by the result of that creeping, has let Bertie Carruthers come around the outside, and as they go down into Dublin Crystal Corner, the Porsche 911 leads the Sunbeam Tiger. A better start this time around for Bertie Carruthers.
Much better start. He's got some cement dust to contend with. And watch out for Lloyd Hutchinson in that cheeky little Mini Cooper from the second row of the grid. He very nearly made it in among the top two. As it is, he's ahead of the big MGB of Gareth Maxwell as they head down the Coca-Cola straight towards the very, very tight right-hand hairpin at Argus Rentals, Ferry Glen. And it's Bertie Carruthers bouncing over the bumps there as they come down into the braking area. Ed Cassidy happy enough at this stage to look at the back of the Porsche, but then that's the way yesterday's race started too, and look at the way it finished.
Yes, yesterday's race, as I was saying, Bertie Carruthers did get the better start, and Edmund Cassidy was playing catch-up for a time, but when he did get ahead, he did have that power on the main straight as the cars behind go round the Furry Glen. He did have the power on the main straight, was Edmund Cassidy, but into the corners, under braking, Carruthers was able to close up. As they head up now to the Saab corner for the first time in this 8-lap race, it is Bertie Carruthers in the Porsche, and under braking, Edmund Cassidy this time gets that little bit closer.
The Sunbeam Tiger now able to use all those 4.2 litres down the straight, but the Porsche getting the power down better and seems to be stretching it away just for the first couple of 100 yards. Further back, an eclectic mixture of cars, a big, tall, old Volvo saloon there, battling with a tiny Mini. All kinds and conditions of motor cars in this race, but up front, it's Tiger versus Porsche, with Porsche in front.
Around Dublin Crystal Corner for the second time in this 8-lap race, it is Bertie Carruthers who still leads from Edmund Cassidy. Normally what these cars would do in Mondello Park especially is run a handicap race. Basically the slower cars start first, and then the theory is that they all flash by the finish line together. It doesn't actually happen that way, but this time around it is a scratch race, so they're vying for positions all the way through. At the end of the first lap, Carruthers had a lead of 0.36 of a second from Cassidy, and Hutchison back in third place in that Mini, some 3.86 seconds as they go round Furry Glen for the second time.
And what that means, well, there's a big performance difference, is that before the end of the race, the leaders are going to start lapping the back markers, and those back markers can have an effect on who's in front. They can balk people, not intentionally perhaps, but they may not be looking in their mirrors, and that can change the outcome of the race. But there's Lloyd Hutchinson in the Mini, a safe third place. Then it's Gareth Maxwell in the MGB, then it's Jim O'Reilly in the second of the Porsches, Mervyn Johnson's Mini, and then I think it's probably Billy Crosby in the number 60 MG Midget next in line. Further back there are Jaguars and Cortinas and Anglias and all manner of things.
Yes, a real mix and match and gather 'em in this race, but these are the two leaders once again. End of lap 2, Carruthers in the Porsche 911 leads Ed Cassidy in the Sunbeam Tiger. Cassidy takes the wider line, just gets a little bit of dirt as they go round that corner. This is a battle further down the fields, one or two of those cheeky little Minis down the Dunlop Straight. A great battle here, coming down into the Dublin Crystal Corner once again.
And it looks as though this lot are fighting every bit as hard as the Fiats and the Formula Vs elsewhere on the programme. You expect valuable motor cars to be treated with respect and with great care, but not a bit of it. These fellows are giving it absolutely everything. And Ed Cassidy has got a bit of a slingshot on the Porsche as they went down Coca-Cola Straight that time. He's a lot closer in the braking area, and the Tiger's brakes seem at this stage in the race anyway to be holding up quite well, because he's able to close up without getting sideways as soon as he touches the brake pedal.
Well, the lead at the end of 2 laps was negligible, 0.39 of a second, but you can see the distance and the gap there. But the distance back to the third place runner, Lloyd Hutchinson, was 7.17 seconds, as some of the back markers down into the Furry Glen for their second time. In fact, their third time, of course. They're on lap 3 of 5 as they speed up now. The STP straight, not quite a straight, it does have a left-right camber and then back up onto the main straight. And these are our leaders on the Dunlop straight for the third time, and he's trying around the outside is Edmund Cassidy this time around. He doesn't seem to have, this time around in this race, that power. Doesn't seem to, weight ratio doesn't seem to be doing exactly the same as it did yesterday.
Not quite, but Bertie Carruthers is keeping to the right-hand side coming into the corner. That means he gets the slower exit to the corner because he's having to take it tighter, and that means that the Tiger can take its time, take the proper line, and actually rocket out that little bit faster. So it could well be that Bertie Carruthers, being defensive, could actually be handing the advantage to Ed Cassidy in the long run. We'll have to wait and see.
On the way down to
down the Dunlop straight they go once again. This is car number 18, that is
Jim O'Reilly
in 5th place overall, and he's got Billy Crosby behind him, that car number 60.
But Maurice Cassidy behind them. Then if you just look a little bit further ahead, which we can't quite see, we'll see them going out of the corner, some back markers, plus 1 or 2 Garth Maxwell's MGB in the head of them. He's in 4th place, and of course there's a Mini still lying 3rd.
Well, this is the difficulty now for the leaders, because after 5 laps, they're on their 6th lap now. The difficulty is they've got to pass these back markers, but being the gentleman races they are all staying over to the left-hand side of the road to allow our 2 leaders through. And down the inside of one of the back markers goes our leader, Bertie Carruthers, to complete 6 of 8 laps. And a hand waved in the air there from Edmund Cassidy. I don't know if that was annoyance or just to say thank you very much. I think it was probably the latter.
I think it was, because historic drivers are very gentlemanly, as we know. But there, as Richard White's Capri pulls in, he was telling me yesterday that that car cost him the princely sum of £1,000. He's had a lot of value out of it at Phoenix Park this weekend, but no more, sadly. It seems to have retired. But Bertie Carruthers in the traffic appears to have stretched out a couple of car lengths there over Ed Cassidy. He's had the brakes, as they say, and possibly he's been able to make better use of them. The race isn't over yet.
Certainly not. The time gap after the end of 6 laps was 1.19 seconds, with Hutchinson back in 3rd place and 20 seconds adrift. He won't be bothering the front 2, but as they make the way through the back markers, and now they're on their own. Well, actually, they're coming up to one of the Volvos. One of that big Volvos looks like an enormous bus out in the middle of that traffic there. But our leader's coming through the STP straight, down towards the Saab corner, and then onto the main straight for the penultimate time. Bertie Carruthers in the Porsche 911, Edmund Cassidy in the Sunbeam Tiger. Can that big litered car, 4.2 litres against 2.7 litres, do anything about it? I'm afraid Cassidy's been bulked there by a back marker, and I think the Carruthers will be able to open up his advantage as they come down the main straight for the very last time, sorry, the second last time, because they're on to their final lap now.
And Cassidy just has 1 lap in which to make up about 4 car lengths and get past the black Porsche. That's a bit of a tall order, but he's leaving the rakes very, very late as they go down to Dublin Crystal. He's left turning very, very late. He's got round, but he's dropped about 3 or 4 car lengths, and that has probably decided the outcome of the race, because barring problems to the Porsche, he should have it all his own way now. It's unlikely that the Tiger is going to be able to make up that kind of distance in just under a lap.
Well, the back markers there just waving the leader through, Bertie Carruthers, and suddenly he will find that Edmund Cassidy is on his boot as well, as Cassidy comes through safe enough. Yes, going into Dublin Crystal Corner, it was just one last moment. He left his braking, did Edmund Cassidy, very, very late indeed. Tried one last manoeuvre to get down by Bertie Carruthers, but it just didn't come off.
But can Norman Williams influence the outcome of this race? Here he is in a misfiring 1300cc Malloch. He's got a big black Porsche bearing down on him. He's got a big red Sunbeam Tiger bearing down on him, but Norman uses the mirrors. He keeps over to the left, lets the Porsche through, and now he's going to let Ed Cassidy through as well, and under braking for the final corner, but it looks like the race belongs to Bertie.
So our congratulations to Bertie Carruthers, who comes on to the main straight here at the Phoenix Park. Yesterday he was second, today he reverses that result under the checkered flag. Bertie Carruthers wins the Cisco Class Historics here at the Phoenix Park in the Porsche 911. Second place, Edmund Cassidy in the Sunbeam Tiger. Lloyd Hutchinson would take third in the Mini Cooper, and Garth Maxwell fourth home in the MGB GT.
Well, big crowds enjoying the free motor racing festival here at the Phoenix Park over the last 2 days. It really has been a glorious event. Time for us to take a short commercial break, but we will be back with you in a couple of minutes' time. Just let me tell you before we go to it that Mark Walker, who crashed there in the Fraser Nash class a couple of minutes ago, is perfectly fine. He's hurt his shoulder. He has been taken to hospital just as a precautionary measure, but he is going to be A-OK. So join us again in a couple of more minutes for more racing live here from the Phoenix Park.